And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFLW round review. Round six has come. It has gone. We are officially halfway through the home and away. Always the point that starts to disappoint me a little bit when we're on the downswing of number of games in the season. And joining me today, one of my fellow international friends that is huge in the AFLW space, Irish recruiter, great friend of mine, Michael Currane. Mike, it is great to see you again, sir. How is lovely Ireland?
Great to be Johnny. Ireland is fine. Yeah, it's a bit chilly, cold at the middle now. We're heading into winter, but watching all this footy in Australia is getting us through some some winter months. So looking forward to more of that. But yeah, as you said, hard to believe halfway through the season, 6 rounds done. But as I said to somebody recently, it is the longest season ever. So like 6 rounds done a couple of years back would have been nearly the end of the home and away season. So it's exciting that we still have another 6 rounds to go and finals after that. So yeah, big fan of the slightly longer and increasingly getting longer AFLW seasons, of course.
Yep, 100% with you, sir. Let's jump right into it. As we said, round six has come. It has gone some more interesting and fascinating results that we have to talk about. But before we go through each one, just quickly, a synopsis, thoughts of this wacky, interesting, crazy, and scintillating round six.
Yeah, look at it. It was all of the above, and as has been the whole season so far. It's exciting. The game is faster. The scores are higher. We're seeing some upset results, which is good in keeping it competitive. We're seeing some blowouts. I suppose the key stories of all the rounds so far and continuing through round six is the dominance of North Melbourne and that exceptional winning streak that they're putting together now. And you're starting to ask yourself, is there anybody that can stop them at any stage along the competition? And then you go to the other end of the table and you look at the likes of Richmond Tigers, who are in finals in 2 of the last 3 seasons and are now gone 6 games with no win. So really struggling down at Richmond for the Tigers as well. So yeah, kind of a tale of both ends at both ends of the table there at the moment.
100% with you. So let's go right through it. We have 9 fascinating games to go through. We will start at Vic Park as the Hawthorn Hawks edge out a pesky, tough, competitive side of the Collingwood Magpies, 39-30. Man, this was a fantastic game of football. Mired a little bit. Unfortunately, it looks like Kalinda Howarth may have gone down with another knee injury, which I'm absolutely gutted for that young superstar. She's absolutely scintillating. But going back into it, especially having the co-host that I have, how good is it to see Aileen Gilroy back on the footy field?
Yeah, that was one highlights of the round. I suppose coming from an international and an Irish perspective was to see Gilly back in action. Hadn't played so far this season, so that was her first game in round six. Brilliant to see her back in action. Everybody's excited to see her. Probably no one more so than Anya McDonough, I suppose, her Irish teammate at the Hawks, who has been playing exceptionally well all season so far. But we know across the last few years, the link of play between Anya and Aileen is absolutely phenomenal. They just find each other. Aileen with those long, searching, deep entry forward balls from 40, 50 metres away, nearly always end up with McDonough on the end of them. And already we saw Anya kick 2 goals in round six, and both of those were as a result of a deep kick in from Aileen Gilroy. So they've already reconnected instantly, and that's great news for Hawthorn. And I suppose Hawthorn have picked up their 5th win. They were on a good streak as it was without Gilroy coming back. She's going to be a huge addition going forward. But also, I think you nailed it there. Collingwood really competitive in this one. I think they've been a little bit on in a few of their results. They're playing much better than a lot of people had anticipated. They did kick 3 goals 12 behind, so if they were more efficient than goals, this one could have even been closer. There was only 9 points in it in the end. Echo what you said there, read the injuries. Hope it's not an ACL or a knee, something serious for Kalinda Howarth again. But yeah, brilliant to see Hawthorn get the win, and great to see that, and plenty more of that to come across the next few rounds, hopefully.
Yes, definitely for sure. Let's move on over to Alberton Oval in South Australia as the Cats find a way to get it done. I know, we'll save it for just the littlest bit. The Cats get it done, but unfortunately, a little bit of controversy might have been the reason they get over the line. And I know just like in the men's, it is the talking point of this game. I want to stay with the football for just the tiniest bit before we stay on the controversy. Incredible game between these two. Again, so many talented players on the park in this one. Georgie Prasparkas, Nina Morrison, so many on there. Jackie Perry, Aisling Maloney, the Irish super forward, the Irish forward for the Cats. And then on Port Adelaide side, Matilda Schultz, Abby Dowrick, the first ever game for Lauren Young, the young South Australian girl making her season debut after an ACL tear in the AFLW last year. Incredible game of football. Again, a little marred due to a controversial call at the end that did sway the finish.
Yeah, look, it's unfortunate, but in tight games, and we mentioned the games are getting closer and they're more competitive. So, like decisions like this are going to pop up. They're going to be talked about. Bit of controversy at the end, as you say, with a free kick being paid to Geelong for a deliberate rush behind. Watching the game live and on repeat, you could see it wasn't, she was making an effort to get to the ball, and it just happened to go across the line. So,
Mhm.
and since, which will be, I suppose, no comfort. So Port Adelaide, the AFL have confirmed that the decision
Yeah.
was incorrect, having queried that. But, they'll say it didn't have an impact on the result. It absolutely did. The game was so tight. It was a crucial time in the game. And for Geelong to step up and kick that goal from that free kick. But yeah, again, cracking players on both teams. Geelong have now 3 wins in a row after losing their first 3 games of the season. So just when you thought they were off, their season's off the rails, they're right back in it. And they've got a great run going at the minute. In this game, they didn't score at all in the first quarter at Everton Oval, and just a couple of weeks ago, they clocked up a record score there, so you were wondering how that was going to go, but they came right back into it as well. So, yeah, really competitive game right to the end. Not much in, and just 5 points. And as you say, probably, unfortunately, the main talking point will be that controversial free kick.
Yeah, and it really stinks when a game is marred like that because again, thought this was a fantastic game of football, and even if it's one of the things I wish the AFL House would stop doing that, stop coming out and confirming what we all know. We all know it was a mistake. Okay, it does nothing. It's not like we're gonna go back and go, we're sorry, Port Adelaide. Here's a point in forgiveness. They don't. It really is a waste. Why did you even come out and do it? I get it. You're trying to make it that you're trying to let the teams know that you've figured out an error was made. Well, anybody that watched that game knew an error was made, except for the umpire that made the call. And again, I am not an umpire basher, never have. I try not to. It's just the fact sometimes, like all humans, we make mistakes. Unfortunately, the mistake was made at a time that really was not beneficial for the Port Adelaide Football Club. So I get it. I just don't understand why they come out and say anything. Just reach out to the Port Adelaide Football Club, apologize, and let them know, but don't put out a press release because all it does is it inflames people that are already upset as it is that the
Yeah,
call
well, salt in the
we
wounds, basically, isn't it? Yeah.
we've seen it so many times in the men's. Like, just don't do it privately. Don't put it out. Don't even because all you're doing is feeding a monster already that's already difficult enough, and it is toxic fan behavior. All you're doing is feeding that particular monster another giant cheeseburger and then wondering why it pokes its head out all the time. Okay, so
Yeah.
so don't do it. I get it, AFL House. I understand what you're trying to do. I just wouldn't do it the way you're doing it. Let's hop over, as you said in your thoughts. The North Melbourne Kangaroos continue the winning train, rolling along, smashing Carlton by 53 points, 79-26. As I asked last week, and I'm starting to really think about it, it's more of if North will play a competitive game more than will they stay undefeated? Because right now, this is a very good Carlton team, a Carlton team that has been the darlings of this particular season. The way they have played, they have really gathered a lot of admirers with how well they've played. And North just literally took them behind the woodshed and whooped them like a misbehaving child. So I don't know what else to say. Like it's
Yeah.
very, very simple. And the scary part is that you have a defending premier in Emma King who can't get a game because of how
Yeah.
good Kim Rennie's playing in at North. So what's really scary is that they're so deep. They have players that have won premierships and won games. that are sitting on the sidelines, not even playing. That's how scary this North team is. Overtly, on the other side with Carlton, they played a hell of a game. Okay, that is a behemoth that they just played. I think they played fantastic. The McKay sisters, um, Abby and Sophie were fantastic. Terrible. Hannah kicks 2 goals in this game. As we kind of said off mic, Dana Finn had a little bit of a quieter game, but still not a bad game for her. And again, I think she's looking fantastic this season. So much fun. Laheen Blog was a little quieter than she normally is on the north side for and the Irish tent. I gotta get those Irish names out. So I apologize if I butcher them. Please let me know to make sure that I say them correctly. I apologize if I butcher that. She's been fantastic this season.
Yes. Yeah.
A new addition to a North team that was already good. And you add her, and she's been incredible for them. But again, North fantastic. Again, Carlton has nothing to lower their heads over. They tried. They did the best they can. That is a behemoth that you just took on.
Yeah, well, look at it. Like this was the big test for Carlton come up with a 3 game winning streak. As you say, they are the darlings of the competition. Everyone's loving the way they're playing. Their excitement, the atmosphere at Icon Park when they're playing at home is huge. But North is an absolute juggernaut, and we've said how we're going to stop them. I don't know how you can. Use the likes of Ashridell breaking the disposal record with 44 disposals. I think she's got 3 of the top 10 in terms of record disposals. She equaled
Something to that
43
effect,
a few
yeah.
weeks ago. So, and Jazzy Garner back firing and flying as well. So that North midfield is absolutely flying. But I think the depth that you mentioned there is the scary thing. And they may yet need it. They have unfortunately suffered a few injuries across the last couple of weeks now as well, with Nicole Bresnahan, an awful injury coming out for Alice O'Loughlin with a lacerated liver, which is a scary thought after the game the last day. From an Irish point of view, Vicky Wall went off the second week in a row with an elbow, so hopefully she's not going to be out of action at all if for long. But yeah, it is that depth of talent. When you mentioned Blahin Bogue there, like she's second top scorer in the league at the minute, I think with 11 or 12 goals. She scored in every round so far, all 6 rounds. So a huge score in her first playing season. It is her second year at North. She didn't play a game last year, which again, I suppose alludes to the depth at North. But we know how good she is here. I was involved in getting her over to the Kangaroos. She's a brilliant player. And what she will do is she's just going to take those, no matter how quiet she is for a game in terms of disposals or involvements. If she gets silent goal or a chance, it's going to be goals. So that's the other thing. They can just bring goals from everywhere. Once they get over the top of you, they have so many forwards that can score majors there. But not to take anything away from Carlton, I think they fought hard. They'll bounce back. They're on a great run at the minute. You mentioned Dana Finn, who's having an outstanding season. Making an early call for her to be an All-Australian. I think at this stage, if she continues her form, it will be without question. And even here on Fitzpatrick, the two of those have become a bit of a dream team. We mentioned Geelong at Hawthorn, but Ben and Fitzpatrick at Carlton are a bit of a link up and a match up as well. And look at all these exciting young through at Carlton and at all the clubs as part of what they're calling the super draft from last year. All brilliant to watch and all contributing to the game. But yet, who is going to stop North, or who's even going to compete with North at this stage is the question.
Yep, nope, 100% with you on that one. Let's head out west. Fremantle Community Bank Oval has the Fremantle Dockers with an absolute smashing of Essendon, 56-8. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 8 points, an entire game of football. It's saddening to me that Essendon, a team that honestly, looking at some of the names on their roster, I'm sitting here going 8 points. A little disappointing. Fremantle were fantastic in this game again. Seeing Turbo back is incredibly fun. Seeing Aisling McCarthy again having another fantastic season for the Dockers, and Stannett is back. They've been looking incredible, but I don't know what to focus on more. The incredible play of Fremantle bouncing back from a rough start to the season. Again, some of the
Yep.
stronger teams that they played early in the year, so I get that. But I, I don't know what's wrong with Essendon. Like you have some incredible players. I know Georgia G went down, and she's a good link. She's a good link up on the half forward position, especially with Bonnie Too Good at your full forward position. But you've got Georgia Danscon and you've got Maddie Prasparkas, two great ball winning midfielders, and you're putting up 8 points in an entire game of football.
Yeah, well, look at it. There's two sides to this game, and I think one of them is the absolute pressure and intensity of Fremantle, who,
Agree.
remember, 2 weeks ago went down by 100 points to North Melbourne when they clocked the highest score ever in AFLW history. So that's just a fortnight ago. Fremantle now have 2 wins. They had a great win in the Western Derby last round and a big win here. And you mentioned Turbo, like 21 tackles for Kiara Bowers. She has the record for tackles in AFLW at 22. She almost matched it again. So that's the level of pressure that Essendon were under. I don't know if there's an excuse their scoring or whatever. Like they only had one behind at 3/4 time. So would you believe the 8 points is actually flattering? They had scored one behind at 3/4 time. They got a late behind and a very late goal just to put some sort of numbers on the scoreboard. But still, yeah, very underwhelming from Essendon. But Fremantle have hit their purple patch, and it is down to the draw sometimes. They've hit some of the business at the start. They've got a bit of momentum. Ashley McCarthy flying it in the midfield. 2 goals in a minute for her, which was fantastic to see. But yeah, something needs to click for Essendon now. They had a great start to the season as well. They got their 3 wins. They've now had 2 big losses in a row, going down to the Saints last week. But they're just a game outside the top 8. They're in a bunch of 3 or 4 teams that are just outside the top 8 on 12 points, I think. So all is not lost, but they definitely need to turn something around across the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little disheartening to see that 2 straight weeks of only 8 points. It's a little frustrating. And again, it's a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde situation with Essendon. Like which is the correct team? The team at the start of the year with their 3-0, or the team that right now is face planted the last two
Yeah.
rounds of the year. Speaking of another Jekyll and Hyde team, unfortunately for the old ball coach here, is as the Swans fall in the Sydney Derby at Henson Park, 49-42. But before we get to the football, how incredible. 7,100 people, 7,171 fans showed up at Henson Park to see this classic Sydney Derby, a 7 point margin as the Giants get the win. How awesome was it to see that crowd at a game of football for AFLW?
That was amazing, Donny. And it's a crowd, which always brings in the fans no matter what. But even just watching it, to see the sea of red and white on the hill, you couldn't see a patch of grass at Hinton Park. Absolutely brilliant. There's always obviously a huge rivalry there. There's always a few subtitles to the story as well. But yeah, brilliant atmosphere. Great to see the fans out. Great game. I know you'll be disappointed the Swans went down personally, but brilliant win for GWS. Coming off their first win in 378 days, the previous round, they were on a bit of a roll as well. They were upwards. You saw what I mentioned them last week when the whole squad got around Cam Bernasconi at the final siren. So this one was competitive. It was fiery. There was plenty of flashpoints. Both teams left it all on the ground. Nothing in it in the end, as you say, just the 7 points. But yeah, brilliant to see record numbers at a game in Henson Park. And, even just looking at the likes of, we mentioned the Irish player Julia Sullivan, devastating news for her, of course, with her ACL in the previous round. Paris McCarthy, her Irish best friend and teammate, scored a goal from a snap kick, did a bit of a celebration that not too many people picked up, you being one of them, in honour of Julie. And then, of course, Tanya Kennedy, the Irish tackling machine, absolutely brilliant as well. She doesn't score much, but she snapped a goal as well on that one. But yeah, I think it's a big win for GWS.
Yep, no, 100%. Like I said, I will take off red hat and put on coach hat, put on the black hat. GWS was fantastic in this game. The great pressure, great tackling, got great performances. And I also want to throw out seeing Alicia O'Dowd as an Irish woman who they don't play ruck the same way that ruck is
No.
played in Australia. She took it up to Ali Morfitt, who is one of the top 3 rucks in the entire competition. Mim Strom, Matilda Schultz, and Ali Morfitt. Those 3 are 3 of the best. Alicia O'Dowd held her own. She looked fantastic. She constantly was neutralizing ones. Then you saw her speed, which is something not a lot of the rucks have. A lot of the rucks are big bodied. They get the footy, but they're not attacking or they don't have the speed. Elise does. And it's incredible to watch her because you can see the influx of the Gaelic game with how she handles the football. So I want to give a shout out to her. I thought she was fantastic against Ali Morfitt again. The coaching hat there. Grace Martin down back. Emily Pease down back were fantastic. They looked incredible. Georgia Garnett with the one in the pocket. Incredible kick how she
Yeah.
shaped it. Absolutely fantastic. Um, Brody Mowbray with 2 goals in this game, including the one that pretty much sealed it, which pretty much put the result just too far for the Swans to be able to do. I thought it was an incredible game of football. Absolutely loved it. Again, putting my red hat on, I was frustrated at the skill errors that the Swans had. So many times there were chains of handballs that they would get two that would be perfect, and then the third one would be at somebody's feet or 2 feet behind them, or would completely miss and go over their heads. It annoyed the crap out of me. And that's the one thing that really frustrated me because I think if the Swans skill errors doesn't happen at the multitude that they did, I think Sydney wins this game because the scoring power when they went forward was much more dangerous each individual time. GWS kind of stacked it up, and I think they kind of wore that Sydney defense down, and eventually they were able to open up some holes, especially the Brody Mowbray goal that gave them the lead, gave them the 7 point lead, which ended up being the winning margin, was literally because all of the defenders were tired. She with a great scoop off coming off the interchange and able to slot it home. So but no, I this was an incredible game of football to the fans also as well. How awesome was it? And it wasn't just red and white. There were some good red, there was some orange, white, and charcoal there. Again, shout outs to the Giants fans for getting out there. I know they were outnumbered like 8-1, but there were Giants fans. You saw the flags, you
Yeah.
saw the cheer squad behind the goal to the left side of the camera that I saw. But to anybody that's hearing this, it was at Henson Park. Thank you. That was incredible. That was absolutely incredible seeing that number there. And I love it that it keeps the Sydney Derby competitive. I'll say it. GWS's their social media team again is like undefeated because the whole video coming out of Scott Gowan's kind of throwing the shot at the Giants a little bit. Scott plays with fire a little bit. It annoys me a little bit, but I get it. It keeps the rivalry going. And
Sure does.
sometimes, I will say this, sometimes the AFL tries to make the W have the same rivalries that the men's do, and I don't think it always goes out. Carlton Collingwood has kind of been created. GWS in Sydney has maintained that rivalry even in the women's. As you kind of said,
Yeah.
there were numerous spot fires in this game. So many jumper punches. In fact, Tanya Kennedy's probably lucky. I think there was one she legitimately probably missed a chin by about that much.
Yeah.
So no, and to go off what you said, Paris McCarthy kicking the goal, I think it was in the second quarter, and then putting up the 2-4 on her fingers for Julie O'Sullivan, I thought was an incredibly awesome move by Paris. TK with that incredible snap from the pocket was incredible. Her facial expression when he went through was great. I was like, you can tell she was kind of like, "Holy crap, I did it!" So
She was just surprised at everyone. Yeah.
that was absolutely incredible. No, it was a fun game. Like I said, disappointing the result for the red hat part of me. Like I said, the black coach's hat, the neutral when I can be. I'm happy for Cam Benasconi because he's went through so much crap at GWS because
Yeah.
it's just been a club and a program at GWS that just has not gotten things right most of the time. I think they still really haven't 100% filled the old role that the old, oh my gosh, I'm totally brain farting. The Irish superstar that was their talisman
Forrest
up
Staunton.
forward.
Yeah.
Yep, Cora Staunton. They really have not fully filled that spot there. Like they haven't. Zarly Goldsworthy does her best, but Zarly is still more of a midfielder than a forward. They don't have that talisman forward that Cora was. So they're still kind of filling that out. They've had there's some gaffes when it comes to list management. I know Jazz Grierson was on the list. They delisted her. She goes over to Sydney, now having one of her best seasons ever. There have been a few things, but I think they've drafted well. I thought both their draft picks, Courtney Rowley and Grace Martin, were both really good in this game. You're starting to see the young talent that they've drafted start to make an
Yeah.
impact. like I said, I hope for Cam Beniscoti's sake they continue to progress. I want to see a competitive Giants team. That was an incredible Sydney Derby. Absolutely loved it. For the Swans, there's a little bit of concern now because that's two in a row against two teams that, again, maybe it's a little bit of overconfidence. That's two losses to two teams you probably were expecting to win. And now you get the super meat of your schedule with Adelaide, North, and Melbourne still to come on your
Yeah.
schedule. And now you've descended down the ladder a little bit. So, yeah. So
Yeah,
definitely.
look, they're still in fifth. It hasn't been bad after a tremendous start, but as you say,
Yeah.
there's some big fixtures ahead, so it'll be interesting to see how the next few weeks go for the Swans.
Yep. Scott definitely has a little bit of work to do, but maybe this is the reality check. Maybe. I'm
True.
hoping. I'm hoping. Again, red hat Donnie. Black hat Donnie again. Good on you, Cam Benisconi. You did fantastic. Good on the Giants. Again, well-deserved win. You outplayed the Swans for 90% of that game. It was a blitz in the second quarter that really got the game close. And then it was kind of stayed within that 12 to 13 point margin both ways the rest of the game, which
Yeah.
means it was competitive, it was close. Spot fires, absolutely loved it. Another Sydney Derby classic for sure. Let's move down Casey Fields, where the Melbourne Demons absolutely welcomed their old player, old Daisy Pierce, comes down and welcomes them to Casey very rudely with a 51-point win, 74-23. Eden Zanka, have yourself a day, young lady. 5 goals for her. Taylor Harris adds 2 on to that one, and the D's look absolutely cherry ripe after a little bit of a stumble last week against Port Adelaide.
Yeah, they do. And building up to this match, it was all about the master versus the apprentice and the mixed tenure and the Pierce storyline. But as you said, it was Eden Zanker that very quickly became the highlight and the top story talking point of this match. 5 goals for her, all in the first half. It looked like she was going to blow a record. It was there for a while. Obviously the record for goals in an AFLW game is 7 goals by Chloe Malloy and Brooke Loughlin, but she was up to 5 at half time. But the Eagles did a much better job in cutting off the flow and stemming the tide a bit in the second half for sure. But it was too little too late there because Melbourne just like exploded out the gates there. Brilliant win for them. And you see Eden Zanker kicking 5, but then you have Kate Hoare kicking 2, Taylor Harris kicking 2. So all their big guns and their big firepower was firing. Great to see Sinead Goldrick back from an Irish point of view, and she was brilliant in defence,
She
chopping
was.
off attack after attack. But yeah, it was a bit of a lesson on the day for the Eagles. But again, they've had an amazing start to the season. David Pierce has done a wonderful job over there. They got their 3 wins to start. But they've got momentum as well. And no doubt they'll bounce back from that. They're just hanging off the bottom of the 8 and number 9 at the minute, which is a great position for them to be in. But yeah,
Mhm.
Melbourne back into the top 2 and looking dangerous and stronger as the weeks go on.
Yep, no, 100% with you. Daisy has been one of my favorite parts about this season. Uh, is just what she's done with the West Coast Eagles. And again, she's got a young list. I mean, she is a potter with some really good pieces of clay that she gets to mold. And like I said, I mean, watching Ella Roberts under Daisy's tutelage has been so much fun. Seeing youngsters, Kayla Dalglish, Lucia Painter. I know she didn't play in this game, but she's still there. You've got Charlotte Thomas. You've still got Isabel Lewis. This is a fun roster that she gets to take over and mold. It's going to be so much fun to watch it. Again, they're going to go through these bumps. This is a experienced Melbourne side with a lot of talent, a lot of veterans on it. Kate Hoare again, another fantastic game for her. She looks absolutely magnificent again. This was just one of those. It was a bad matchup when it came to it. If Melbourne plays the way Melbourne can play. And we didn't know how they would respond again after the loss at Port Adelaide. And they responded spectacularly. The Eagles did everything they can. Again, this is a little bit closer than it was for most of the game. I know that the West Coast Eagles, again, are fourth quarter specialists. They do really well in the fourth quarter, and they did it again, kind of bringing the margin a little bit closer. But for the most part, this was Melbourne's domination for the first 3 quarters. And then the fourth quarter, Melbourne kind of took their foot off the gas. West Coast capitalized, which you got to play 4 quarters. So I know that McStenier is probably a little turbed that the fourth quarter saw a little bit of a pullback. But again, fantastic with the Demons. They look cherry ripe and they bounced back from that Port Adelaide loss fantastically. Let's head over to Whitten Oval in Melbourne as well as the Brisbane Lions come down to Victoria and get a 25-point win over the Doggies, 47-22. Lions getting it done, just what they need to do. And again, the Doggies this year, they're going to go through some headaches. They're still a young side. They're competitive as all get out. They're pesky. They get stuff done. But this is a classy, experienced, veteran Lions team. They got done what they needed to do. Incredible. Got to say it. Anytime we talk about the Brisbane Lions, Orla Dwyer, fantastic on the wing for them. Always love watching her play football.
Yeah, look, it's a great win for the Lions. As you say, they've had a bit of a bumpy start to the season so far. This was a case of getting the job done, and that's what they did. They led from start to finish at every quarter and every break, and just increased their lead as the game went along. Some really good patches from Western Bulldogs and some of their younger players, such as Elaine Grieg there with her tackle pressure and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, and in a special mention to Nata Dooley, one of the debut
Yep.
Irish players this year. One of the nine that went over this year, playing really well at the line. She got the goals and was great. Mark and kick from distance as well. But as you mentioned, Orla Dwyer consistently brilliant week in, week out. And John is having a great season as well in defence.
Mhm.
He's benefiting from just playing a full preseason and getting more familiar with the game. But a really solid in terms of but yeah, they played this game on their terms. I think, they like to kick mark in possession. They had 43 more marks. They had 55 more uncontested possession. So there was only going to be one winner in this one. It's a win the Lions needed. It gets them back into the eight. I think they're in at seven. Um, but yeah, Western Bulldogs battled hard, but this was a win for the more experienced and battled hard in the Lions, I think.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And yeah, I feel so bad because Jen Dunn's one of my favorite Irish defenders. Like I think she's fantastic. She's taken on that fullback role at Brisbane and done incredibly well. So my apologies to Jen on that one because she has looked really, really good down back for the Lions. So my apologies on that one because I never want to leave her out because I think she's been incredible on this one. RSEA Park as we stay in Melbourne as the Saints get a win over the Richmond Tigers. The painful season of the Tigers continues with another loss, this one by 7 to the Saints, 43-36. Again, Jess Wardlaw, incredible. The young talent through the midfield, Tanya Smith, Georgia Patrikios, just a little bit too much. And man, this is getting frustrating because Richmond still has some incredibly difficult opponents still on their list. I hate saying it, I hate saying it, Mike, but right now I could see Richmond not getting a win this year.
Yeah, and who would have thought that at the start of the season? A team that played finals last year and 2 seasons back or 3 seasons back as well, and 10th the season in the middle, down at the bottom of the table, 6 rounds in, winless. You got to feel for them a little bit, and I think everyone's feeling a little bit of frustration. Thought maybe this was going to be the game. It was close. There was only 7 points in it. But of course, St Kilda have a bit of momentum as well. They were backing up from a massive win over Essendon the week before. So it is really hard to know what has gone wrong for Richmond or what they need to do to turn it around. But as you say, the fixtures incoming aren't looking on them any more favourably. So it is really hard to see where that win comes from. I really hope they get it, obviously. But yeah, that's probably one of the stories of the season. In as much as North Melbourne's dominance, it's probably Richmond's fall down the table from kind of finals contenders to being in bottom position at the moment. But yeah, it was a rainy day at RSA Park, and just St Kilda, really good. Jesse Warlow with some key goals again, having a good season.
Mhm.
But a good win for the Saints, and that's two in a row.
Yep, yep. It's been a tough one for Richmond. I don't know what it is because again, like I said last week, there's so many talented players on this Richmond list. I'm not seeing why things aren't clicking. I mean, you've got a former best and fairest in Mon Conti, a number one overall pick in Ellie McKenzie, who was incredible in this game. Ellie McKenzie was probably one of the players that one of the best on grounds personally, and she was on the defeated side. You've got Katie Brennan. I know Katie Brennan didn't play in this game, but you've got Katie Brennan. Caitlin Greiser has been incredible with her kind of shifting around, being able to go through the ruck this year. You've got the Hosking, one of the Hosking sisters there. You've got Beck Miller down back, who I think is incredible. You've got Beth Lynch, who I think is one of the better small defenders running around. Maddie Shevlin, so many really great players for Richmond. So I don't know what is going on. And it's very frustrating in seeing a team winless through 6 games and the last 6 games only seeing maybe one game that I think that they're going to be competitive in. It's very, very disheartening again. I don't want to take anything away from St. Kilda. I thought they were fantastic again.
Yeah,
Jess Wardlaw finally being put forward and stayed there instead of being fluctuated through the ruck, which really annoys me because she's a forward, she's not a ruck. I understand you want to get her in the game, but the only thing that she does is the ruck is she's competitive, she gets after it, and she's got a little bit of height. She's not ruck craft solid, and she doesn't have a booming kick over 50, so she's not a goal threat. And that's the thing is she's so good around goals. I want her in the 50 or at least at the top of the
yeah.
50 to where she can use her speed because most of the defenders that get her, she's quicker than despite her size. So I'm thankfully Jesse Wardlaw's playing forward. They're getting Renee Karras or Beckott, whichever one, in the rock, which I think really opens up, gives them more of a threat coming forward. And then you've got the talent of Patricios and Tanya Smith and Jamie Lambert coming through the midfield that can give you some scoring prowess there. So loving it for the Saints. Like I said, another win for the Saints. Again, crossing my fingers, touch
I,
wood, do anything I can. Hopefully Richmond gets a win before.
well, I think obviously I feel they're missing Ayla Sheeran substantially this year,
I
well,
agree.
through
I
the midfield.
100%. Yep. Yep.
That was a huge news when she moved to North Melbourne. Also, Sarah Hosking, the captain, has been injured for the majority of the season so far, so another massive out. And just from an art point of view, we've 9 new art players this year. 2 players that have yet to debut. One of those is the first ever Richmond Tiger from Ireland, and that's Aoibhinn Cleary. So hopefully we get to see her across the next couple of weeks. She went out very late after getting all the way to the All Ireland final here at home.
Mhm.
So maybe something like Aoibhinn might bring a bit of Irish look to the Tigers if she does debut across the next couple of weeks. To get their captain back in action and something clicks for them. But yeah.
Yep. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers. I love seeing so many of the Irish players come in. So would love to see that. Cannot wait. So last game of the round up at People's First Stadium as the Crows get a win in Queensland by 16, 34-50. I mean, the Crows get it done, but I'm loving that the Suns they're having a crack. I know that they've battled through injury. I know Charlie Rowbottom has fought through a shoulder injury. She was fantastic in this game. I mean, the emergence of Neve McLaughlin up in Gold Coast has been
Yeah.
incredible. Again, I know there's the Irish in you, Mike, is just grinning like a Cheshire cat whenever you hear and see these incredible performances by these Irish players because they've been incredible additions to the AFLW competition. But I mean, Anne Hatchard and Ebony Marinoff. I mean, it's hard to get any better than those two. Anne Hatchard goes forward, kicks 3 goals in this game. Nafi another 30 goal and a behind in this game. The Crows are just so good. But like I said, I gotta plaudits to the Suns. They did not give up in this game, and they really stayed competitive. So as the Crows supporters, it's got to be a little bit of nerves because this is a Suns team that has not played a lot of great football this year. They do have a win, but they stayed with this Crows team for most of this game. Only a 16-point defeat.
Well, not only they stayed with them, they led the game for at quarter time, half time, and 3/4 time, and it looked like there might have even been a shock on the cards. So they played brilliantly well, ahead by 15 points at 3/4 time. And something that we've seen a couple of times this season now, which from the Crows, is a massive fourth quarter. 6 consecutive goals in the fourth quarter, 3 of those from Anne Hatchard, as you mentioned there, to blow the game apart in that last 20 minutes. We remember they did something similar in round 2 against Geelong, where they had 7 goals to come from behind and win. So they know they're not defeated. You mentioned earlier West Coast Eagles are no quarter team. Well, Adelaide Crows certainly this season are proving that the fourth quarter is their most dangerous. So, but yeah, you gotta say hats off to the Suns. Loving Neve McLaughlin, taking her game to another level this year. I'm assuming that's partly because she has become the first ever Irish captain at an AFL or AFLW club, and she has just taken her game on another level because of that. She has grown in the role of captain at Gold Coast Suns. Excitement machine to watch, especially when they throw her into the middle more. But yeah, they're definitely having a crack off it. They've been close on a couple of results as well. But on this particular occasion, it was that massive fourth quarter comeback from the Crows and the likes of Ebony Marinoff and Anne Hatcher, notably. Two of my favourite parts from this game were two goals, one from Niamh Kelly from the pocket from the Crows, and obviously the other one
Mhm.
Amanda Harris on the other side from a similar position. Two brilliant goals as well, which is really exciting to see.
Yep, no, 100% with you on that one. Always, now, I sometimes Neve Kelly. It's like I'm just so used to her being so fantastic on the wing that it's like I kind of take a game like this where she wasn't incredible, but she was good.
Yeah,
So it's like you almost kind of, I'm not trying to downgrade her because she's not incredible, but it is. It's one of those. I'm so used to Neve Kelly doing stuff like I know she had the game winner against North a couple of years ago off a run, and it was absolutely incredible. So it's games like this where it wasn't like a superstar, but it was a
yeah,
really solid game. Again, it's like I gotta remember it's like Neve Kelly, incredible. Having her sister Grace there this year. I think Grace was hurt and didn't play in this one, but like what an incredible goal that was. It was absolutely fun. Again, this was I agree with you. The fourth quarter was nuts. Like the Crows just went hours.
yeah, exactly that.
So,
Yeah.
oh boy, it was so much fun. All right, Mike. That is all 9 games that we have to cover on this one. So as per usual, we go to burning questions on this. I'm gonna have some fun again. When I get Mike on here, we gotta talk the Irish. We gotta talk when it comes to it. But we'll start off. You kind of threw it off. We are halfway through the year. 6 games through, 6 games left in the home and away. For you, sir, what is your story of the season so far?
Oh well, look, I think it's probably the obvious one. It's North Melbourne's dominance, defending premiers. Is there anyone that can stop them? Was the question at the start of the season. Halfway through the season, we're probably saying, I don't think there is. Like it's up to themselves to literally lose a game. I think at this stage, as opposed to who can beat them or not mind compete with them. But it is interesting to see. I suppose the other story would be Carlton. Loving Carlton at the minute. They're in the top six. They've had 3 great wins. They're playing a brand of football that everyone is enjoying and loving, even the neutrals. They're fun to watch and how are they going about it. Um, Hawthorn up there in the top four again, playing their own brand of football in their own style as well. But yeah, it's been some of the surges that we've seen from teams the likes of Geelong coming back after 3 losses now to 3 wins. It's interesting where they go from here. Do they drive on and win their next couple of games and cement that spot in the top 8? Or do we see a little bit of that inconsistency that we see at times from them as well? Um, but yeah, it's I suppose it's been an exciting 6 rounds, and the best part is we get another 6 rounds incoming across the next few weeks, which is exciting.
Well, I'm gonna caveat mine, but only for one reason. Okay, it's like I know we are 6 games in, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shave the top and I'm gonna shave the bottom. Richmond and North, I want to take them away for just a second. It's the competitiveness
Yeah,
from 2 to 17 for me is something I love because we've had a couple of seasons in the AFLW where by now, and again, I know it's a 10 game season, by now the 8 is pretty much we know who the 8 are going to be. Okay, we know. I'm sitting here just looking at the ladder, and it is, I mean, it is tighter than a frog's behind at this point when it comes to it because we're sitting here and I know 6 games in, I know from second to 12th, 2 games. That's it.
yep,
2 games.
yep,
That is it. And it's 3 games to 14th.
yep.
And there's still some heavyweight matchups still to come. So I'm sitting here looking at it going, even if I'm the Western Bulldogs and Gold Coast Suns who have 1 win, you're still not 100% out of it. It's difficult, but you're still not 100% out of it. And with the Giants win at 15th to 2 and 4, they're still in it. So it's like the competitiveness of the competition. Like I said, I know I'm caveating this huge because right now we're really looking at it unless North has a rash of injury or absolutely loses all sort of form. I think North Melbourne is almost everybody's take to win the premiership. It'll be the other seven teams just competing to who gets to be beaten on grand final day. And I hate saying that, but that's kind of the truth. And then Richmond, like I said, whether they'll win a game is the most question. But the competitiveness from 2 to 17 is incredible because Melbourne has lost, Sydney has lost, Adelaide's lost multiple times, Brisbane's lost
Yeah,
multiple times. So we're not sitting here in these years where we knew Brisbane, Adelaide, North, Melbourne, those is the top four. We know that already. They're probably, unless they've played each other, they're undefeated usually. And the rest of the teams are just fighting for the other four spots. I'm sitting here in the eighth going, I mean, St. Kilda, West Coast, Essendon, Fremantle are all technically eighth, but it's because of percentage that they're out.
yeah,
Like that's how nuts this is. So I'm sitting here again. I know it's a shortened season, so everything's going to be compressed a little bit more. But it's the fact, like I said, from seventh to 12th, every single team is 3-3.
yeah,
Every single team is 3-3. That is 18. It's like seven teams right there. So that's for me is the competitiveness of this competition because you cannot take a day off. As we've seen, Melbourne falling to Port last week, Sydney losing two consecutive games to Collingwood and GWS, both teams 12th or lower on the ladder, and they're sitting fifth. That it just shows you the competitiveness of this competition. It is evening out. I know North totally
yeah,
bastardizes this whole thing, and everybody's going to say, "Oh, look!" But North is also an aged roster, like I said a lot last week. Emma Carney is closer to the end than the beginning. Emma King, I know she isn't playing. She's closer to the end than the beginning. Even Elise Sharon, who they got in the trade, she's closer to the end than the beginning.
yeah,
A lot of their really great players are closer to retirement than they are the start of their career. North is going to come back to the mean. It's going to take a year or two, but they're going to come back to the meat. And you're getting superstar kids, Zippy Fish, Ascentra, Lauren Young, Charlotte
Poppy
Rocky
Schultz, the
Martin, Poppy Schultz.
McKay, yeah,
Exactly. Sophie McKay, Christy Lee Western Turner, Elaine Griggs. So many of these under 20-year-old girls, they're going to take over this competition in the next 3 years. This competition is only going to grow from this. So I know you're going to have to eat a couple of years like this where you just have the veteran team with all the great players. It's eventually going to even out. The competition is even the national draft will even this competition out. You just have to let it mature a little bit. So I'm loving it. I think it's fantastic. There's so much intrigue when it comes to it because there's still so many teams that are still have a chance for finals. And we're already halfway through. We're halfway through the year. 6 games left. Every game is important. Most of these
yeah,
games are 8 point games because you win, they lose. It's gonna this
the
ladder.
swing.
This is snakes and ladders so much. I cannot wait. So, all right. The next two questions, I'm gonna let Mike brag the heck off his little his little behind on this one as the Irishman that he is and the recruiter that he is. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the guys. This is one of the guys that has brought so many of these talents over to the AFL, over to the AFLW, sir. As a lover of this competition, thank you so much for what you have done because you have brought so many of these talents over there. We do a little bit have you to thank for what the yeoman's work that you are doing over there in Ireland. Thank you so much. So, as the proud Irishman that you are, knowing so many of these girls have a connection to you, that they are the reason that they are there. Let me brag them up. How incredible are these performances by some of this Irish superstars that you've had the fingers in the pie of getting over to the W?
Yeah, of course. Look at it. It's absolutely amazing, Donny. I'm loving watching every second of it. As you say, like a record number of Irish players in the competition this year at 39. I've been fortunate to be directly responsible for over 30 of those across the last couple of seasons and involved with some of the other girls going back 5 or 6 years and 6 seasons as well. So the majority of the Irish players. So it's fantastic for me to see them all doing well. I knew they were all going to do well. They're all stars. They're all amazing people. So It's brilliant that AFLW fans and Australian people get to see that when the Irish players go over. But, it really is fantastic the way that they're not only competing in the game, but in a lot of cases, I suppose, dominating. We mentioned the likes of Dana Finn and Aaron Fitzpatrick this year at Carlton, absolutely amazing in their third seasons. The perennials, Ash McCarthy, brilliant for Fremantle, Sarah Rowe at Collingwood, Aileen Gilroy now when she hits form again, Anya McDonough, the leading all-time goal scorer at the Hawks, Niamh McLaughlin, the first ever Irish AFLW captain, some of the new Irish players that went over this year making an instant impact, like Nat Dooley at Collingwood. We have had a couple of, headlines. I was going to say we have had an injury to Kellyanne Hogan at Collingwood and a couple of the players going over there as well. But yeah, it's phenomenal, the contribution I suppose they're making to the game, and it's brilliant that that's getting recognised and seen by fans, because they're all great people, they're all great athletes, and when we bring players over to Australia, we want them to make an instant impact. Nobody's going over there now to just take a spot on a list. There's no room for that anymore. You mentioned some of those superstar youngsters that are coming through from that super draft last year, and there's another line of those to come this year and next year and for all years ahead. So it's increasingly more competitive. It's harder to get a list spot. So when an Irish player does secure a list spot, we want them to go over and succeed. And in the majority of cases, they do that. We saw 3 Irish Australians last year, which is an amazing achievement. Ashton Maloney and Aileen Gilroy and Ash McCarthy. We saw Maloney being the leading goal kicker in the competition in just her second season. So it's brilliant to see all of that and the success of all the girls. And obviously the premiership medals, Vicky Wall and Eric O'Shea last year, potentially a few more premiership medals coming back to the Irish Kangaroos this year if we stick to what we've been saying all along. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Phenomenal to see the Irish girls doing so well. Huge support for them here at home in Ireland and internationally, growing year on year. We can see that ourselves through the messages we get through on our social media and people wanting to watch the games and asking questions, even people asking questions about getting tickets to go to the games in Australia, which is amazing as well. But the interest in the sport, in the Irish players and in AFLW in general has just increased, and that's mainly due to the product being better. We said it at the very start, it's more competitive across the table, and the games are more competitive, they're more high scoring, there's less stoppages, players are better, players are fitter and faster, and that just means the competition is getting better and the amount of people that are going to be watching it is going to increase year on year.
Yep, 100% with you again. Like I said, that incredible number of 30 players that you have impact onto the 39, and it's mind-boggling to me to know that you are the man that really has brought so many of these incredible superstars from the Gaelic game over and have literally become absolute superstars over the AFLW. So I want to have some fun with this because I know the AFL, the men's side, has been talking rep footy. And as soon as that starts happening, now we start hearing rumors that the AFL House want to get a W rep footy game. But instead of being state of origin, which I think right now is still it's still in discussions, they want to do a rep footy of Australia versus Ireland. And I know we kind of discussed this a little bit offhand. Right now, it's seeming more like an idea of the AFLW Irish players being put together as a team and playing Ireland versus Australia. There's not really the international connection with the Gaelic Football Association as much right now. But as the Irish man that you are, do you like the idea? Do you think it would be an incredible idea no matter what way they do it, whether it's just the W players currently, or would you like them to be able to connect with the WGAA and maybe get an actual international rules game like the men? And then do you think the Irish could win in either way?
Wow, a lot to pick through there, but I would love any, I love any incarnation of representative footy. First of all, be that international rules or be that straight up W match. I've been touting for a W match for the last number of years, and the Irish contingent has grown and gotten better since that conversation even started. So it's an even more exciting prospect now, and I think there will be a massive appetite for that amongst the fans and the players. The players have become more vocal across the last few years as well about looking for an opportunity to play representative footy. We hear Sarah Rowe speaking about that from Collingwood a good bit and stuff.
Hmm.
It's really hard to know how it will happen or what transpires. I know obviously conversations have been ongoing between the AFL and the GAA here at home. Um, an international rules series between Australia and Ireland is likely to happen next year, I think, in Ireland potentially. If there was to be an international rules series between Ireland and Australia, that would have to happen at a different time because of different seasons and stuff like that. So they would never happen together. But I suppose there's two scenarios. Either the AFLW and the LGFA combine to produce an international series. And if that did happen, you probably think that Australia would come to Ireland first and that the Irish team would be largely representative of Irish-based players here at home. That would
Hmm.
make the most sense in a kind of an LGFA versus AFLW international rules game. The other scenario of like a straight up AFLW test of Ireland against Australia, now that would be a mouth-watering prospect. That potentially can be done by the AFLW on their own because
Hmm.
like they're all contracted as AFLW players theoretically. They're all in Australia with 39 Irish players. We could devote a whole episode to naming an Irish squad. We had a little bit of chat about it earlier. But we could have huge excitement picking an Irish AFLW team to take on the Aussies. That could actually happen in Australia as a kind of around the time of a state of origin game as well. So it kind of depends, I guess, on what way they want to do it in terms of that relationship between Ireland and Australia going forward. Is it something they want to revive into a longer term series? These series tend to come about for a couple of years, then disappear for 5 or 6 to 10 years, then come back again. If it's something that they want to, get a bit of consistency on, I think it would be Ireland versus Australia in international rules and keep the consistency between male and female. But as a once-off, even if it was a once-off game, Ireland against Australia in AFLW, full AFL test with a Sharon, start to finish. I know I'll be booking flights, Donny. I hope. I'd assume you might be looking up to book flights over because I would want
Oh,
to do one, and it would be a very exciting matchup. So yeah, it's there's rumors all over the place. Loads of people are talking about it here and in Australia and internationally. There's a huge appetite for any sort of representative test matches and whatever format they do get to and they do confirm. I've no doubt that there'll be packed stadiums to go and see that.
yep, I'm 100% with you. And just for you that are listening, the off mic chat was so much fun because as I said, the only part of the ground I'm worried about for the Irish would be in the central midfield. Because after that, the rest of the ground, we just between Mike and I, we were just we're just rolling names off it. It was incredible. And even like I said, even the defenders was fun because sitting here going like again, hypothetically that there's no injuries, you're looking at you have Jen Dunn, Erica O'Shea, Julie O'Sullivan, Neve McLaughlin can go to the halfback flank if you really want to. On the wings, you've got a plethora. I mean, just Orla O'Dwyer, Sarah Rowe, Aaron Fitzpatrick, Dana Finn. You could do that. Aileen Gilroy can even go up to the wing, or you can play her
Steve
on
Kelly,
the Neve. You've got Neve Kelly. Grace Kelly can be a defender. Aisling Maloney, Anya McDonough, Paris McCarthy. I mean, I'm just rolling off names off the
Vicky
top of
Wall,
my
Blahin
head.
Bogue. Yeah, you
Vicky
could.
Wall, Blahin Blow, exactly. You got Alicia O'Dowd can play your ruck.
Yeah,
Anya Tide could probably go through the ruck if you want to, if she's healthy. She can also play that center half forward. I said the only position that I sat there and went, I'm a little worried for you would be the central midfield because just off the top of my head, I went for the Irish for the Aussies, you could go Jazz Garner,
oh,
Ash Riddell, Turbo, Ebony Marinoff, Ann Hatchard,
Hachi. Yeah,
Laura Gardner, Ange Stannett, Charlie Rollbottom, just the plethora that the Australians could put just in the central midfield is
yeah.
crazy. Aisling McCarthy and Tanya Kennedy can go in because you have Kennedy could be your tagger if you really wanted to. Plus, she's a tackling machine. It's the third central midfielder that's the only part that I would be worried about when it comes to it. But you could rotate some of those speedy wingers through and I think you'd be fine. So I would pray that it happens because I even just the W match between the
Yeah,
the the 30 that you put the 30 there, like make two squads of 30, so then there's unlimited rotations, so you could get all these girls a chance. Holy crap, would that be so much fun?
It sure would.
And I forgot Orla Dwyer. I didn't even one of the best wingers we've ever went through. I didn't even get her in it. Like it's as I was saying, this is the fun off mic between Mike and I because again, he's coached before. I've coached before. I'm just sitting here going through, going, oh my God, this would be an incredible game, even if it's just the W with the Sharon playing
Yeah.
a regular AFLW match. It would be an incredibly competitive game. I cannot wait. If this happens, please, AFL House, give us this. If the Gaelic if the Irish girls can get it done, where it doesn't mess up a Gaelic season for the ones that do go back and play for their county. Oh, I'd love to see it. I think it would be an incredibly great game of football. It would be absolutely fantastic. So now that we've had our geeking out coaches moment here, Mike and I, let's go to coaches fun because I take over the podcast just the tiniest bit, and I do my teams of the week and my power rankings. Now that we have officially went through 5 games of the year, and I am totally padding here as I get it. Here we go. All right. Sorry. Had to get my phone. I have it set up here, so I have it all set up. So let's go. We will start at the fullback line as per usual. Defense wins championships. At the fullback line, Libby Birch of the North Melbourne Kangaroos and Mira Gervin of the Gold Coast Suns will be my two fullbacks. Along the halfback line, Serene Watson of the St. Kilda Saints, Poppy Schultz of the Carlton Blues, and good old Neem McLaughlin of the Gold Coast Suns round out the halfback line. Through the center, Matilda Schultz will be our ruck. Along the wings, Nina Morrison of the Geelong Cats and Zippy Fish of the Sydney Swans. Through the center, Jazz Garner of the North Melbourne Kangaroos, Ellie McKenzie of the Richmond Tigers, and Fremantle's Aisling McCarthy round out the center midfield. Along the half forward line, we have Brody Mowbray of the GWS Giants and Hatchard of the Adelaide Crows, and Melbourne's Eden Zanka round out the half forward line. On the full forward line, we have Taylor Harris of the Melbourne Demons and Anya McDonough of the Hawthorn Hawks round out the full forward line. On the bench, we start off my defender, Emily Pease of the GWS Giants. My midfielder is Kate Hoare of the Melbourne Demons. My ruck is Caitlin Greiser of the Richmond Tigers. My forward, Jamie Stanton of the Gold Coast Suns. And not leaving her out, Adelaide's Ebony Marinoff is my utility. That is my team of the week this week, Mike. I know a lot of names really quickly, a couple of bits of Irish flair in that team. Thoughts on this week's team of the week?
Yeah, that's a very solid team of the week for sure, Donny. I love to see Neve and Ash in there as well. Potentially a couple of other girls in this round, like of Zarly Goldsworthy, Charlie
Yep.
Rowbottom,
Yep.
brilliant. And we mentioned earlier Helen McKenzie, but it's you can't fit everybody in there. That's a savage lineup, talk about that as a representative team, even to start with,
My
to continue from what we just said. But yeah, I love it.
Yep. No, no, my last week, if I remember correctly, I think I had Jazz Gardner. Oh my God, it was a four that even my co-host last week, I said, I don't know how you beat him. And then my on the bench, I had Ella Roberts and Allie Anderson.
Yeah.
So it just shows you the strength of the central midfield. The strength of the central midfield throughout this competition is absolutely insane. So I am splitting hairs sometimes trying to get these teams put together, but it really is a lot of fun. I truly do appreciate it. So we go to the power rankings again. My homage to the fourth and long part of the podcast again. I go by forms. The last 5 games is what I look at. At 5, the Hawthorn Hawks. At 4, the Melbourne Demons. At 3, the Adelaide Crows. At 2, the Carlton Blues. I know they lost, but they've still been playing really, really strong. And then North Melbourne at 1. Again, I think they're going to gather dust up there. I don't see them moving unless they have an incredibly bad day. So let's move on to it, sir. Round 7 tips. I know we're still early in the week, but I'm fascinated because we have some mouth-watering matchups that I cannot wait to see them go. We will start off on Thursday night. Cannot wait for this. Love this. Thursday night, Geelong, Hawthorn, the old rivalry. Cats, Hawks, who do you like?
Well, first of all, I'm loving the extended week of footy this weekend coming up with the AFL Grand Final stuff. So to have football on Thursday and Friday is brilliant. Geelong Hawks, this is going to be brilliant. I think, Geelong are in 8th, but they're the only team with a 3-game win streak at the minute. They've hit their form. three losses at the start, 3 wins now. They're coming up against an inform Hawthorn as well, who have 4 wins out of 5. This really is one that I think is could potentially go either way. You think on form, possibly Hawthorn, but Geelong are definitely capable of getting a win here.
Down at GMHBA Stadium, I think the Cats play really, really well. Again, I think the Hawks have been kind of fighting with it. Anya McDonough, Aileen Gilroy are huge in this game. Can they kick? Can they kick straight? And can the Cats find a way to negate Aileen Gilroy's impact on the game? If you can do that, I think they've got enough superstar talent. Georgie Prasparkas, Nita Morris, and Jackie Perry, Aisling Maloney up forward. There's some weapons on this Cats side. I'm going to tip the Cats in this one only because they're at home.
Yeah.
Again, this is a Hawks team. I'm not trying to disrespect them, but man, this is a tough tip because I could see either way. I could see, like I said, if Aileen Gilroy gets off the chain, it could be a long day for those Cats defenders. But it can be the same thing through the central midfield with Nina Morrison and Amy McDonald and Georgie Prasparkas, that if they can get it out of the center and get it in to Aisling Maloney and Jackie Perry, it could be a long day for the Hawks defenders as well. So I'm gonna tip the Cats in this one. Home field advantage, I think, will be helpful. Let's head down to Casey Fields, the windiness that is Casey Fields, as they host the Gold Coast Suns. Melbourne, big for me. I think they got through that blip against Port Adelaide. Suns, competitive, but I think the D's just too much talent in the end.
Yeah, agreed. Tipping Melbourne on this one, and that Casey Fields, it's a bit of a fortress for Melbourne anyway. But they're just going to be too strong for Gold Coast, who have been battling hard across the last few weeks. But just straight off that power performance win in this round, backing up from a close loss last week, I think Melbourne are going to drive on and get over the line against Gold Coast.
I'm going to ask this one, but I don't think I really should. Windy Hill, Essendon versus North Melbourne. Can Essendon pull the upset, or are North just too good? I feel like I'm wasting my time asking the question, but I'm going to.
Yeah, look, we know North are just too good. It's possibly a case of damage limitation for Essendon coming off 2 big 50-point losses. So maybe that's what they're going to be looking to on the day and just be competitive. But yeah, this is going to be a win for the Kangaroos down at Windy Hill, without question, I think.
50-point losses to inferior teams. This could get ugly
Yes.
and ugly quickly. Like I said, I don't want this to happen. I really want Essendon to be competitive. But if they're losing to 50 points to teams that are not nearly as strong as North Melbourne is, I mean, this could be a 100-point win on Windy Hill. And I do not want that to happen. Anybody that's watching this, I don't want that. That is exactly the opposite of what I want. But I could see it happening because that's how good North is playing. That's how not good Essendon is
Yeah.
playing on this one. This is going to be a ripper. Cannot wait for this one. Carlton, Fremantle, Icon Park. Cannot wait. I'm going to tip the Blues in this one. The long travel from Perth to Victoria sometimes is always fun. I think Carlton bounced back from a game that they were competitive against North. North is just that good. I like Carlton. I think their tall targets will give a smaller, not as tall defense. After Emma O'Driscoll, there's not a lot of towers back
Yeah.
for Fremantle on this one. I think this could be a headache if Carlton can put it up in the air and mark the football with Tara Bohannon and Brianne Harrington. I think could be a long day for that Dockers defense. I like the Blues in this one.
Yeah, I agree, Danny. Especially at Icon Park at home, just the records they have and the sport they have there across the last few weeks. They want to bounce back from that blip against North Melbourne. Equally, Fremantle are on that 2-game win streak at the minute, but just that big flight out from Perth. I think it'll be competitive, but I think the Blues will get over the line here as well.
Yep. No, I like I said, cannot wait for that one. I think that one is going to be an incredibly good one. This one, I also think is going to be extremely competitive because two scrappy sides, they get after it, both young, both looking to get another win under their belt. Western Bulldogs at home at Whitten Oval against the Pies. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a bit of a coin toss. Both very similar teams, similar positions on the table. I like Magpies in this one. I think Collingwood have just been thereabouts in the last couple of weeks, despite not getting the results. Playing really well, very competitive. So I think Collingwood are going to get over the Bulldogs in the next one.
Yep, I'm going to tip the Pies in this one as well. I think there's just a little bit more consistency there. I'm liking the growth of Ash Centra slowly. They've got some really good pieces. Again, Britt Benici is an incredible. Britt Benici versus Ellie Blackburn in this one. I always
Yeah.
love when you see two really good superstars that both get after it and play footy the way you love seeing it. Absolutely love that. Cannot wait for that one. Again, I think the Pies just a little bit too much. The Kalinda Howarth injury concerns me a little bit because she really has been that goal scoring threat for Collingwood a little bit. How do they make up for that loss with her knee injury will be something I keep an eye on. Doggies incredibly fun again. Isabel Pritchard's having an incredible season herself. Georgia Stathis being out, I think is you can tell they missed her a lot off that halfback flank. So loving the Pies in this one, but again, I think should be an incredibly good game of football. RSEA Park, St. Kilda v Port Adelaide. This is an intriguing one because I'm gonna flip a coin on this one because I think this could literally go either way. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, kind of the same. Maybe a slight advantage with the game at RCA Park for the St Kilda, but I think Port Adelaide will be smarting a bit from that result last weekend and the controversy around same. And they had a big week, big win the week before that against somebody. I think Port Adelaide might get a win on the road here.
I'm with you. I'm really with you. I think Lauren Young got that first game out of the way. The first game jitters are out. Going on the road sometimes can calm you because you're with your teammates. It's Matilda Schultz, I think, is the thing that really changes this game for me because Beckott, Reese Karen, love them. They are not Matilda Schultz. Matilda Schultz could have a
Mhm.
field day on this one when it comes to rec headouts,
Yeah.
which I think then lets Abby Dowrick get first hands on the footy. And when you give it to a forward line, like I said, Lauren Young, who we've seen little bit of her, the flash and the brilliance of her, I still to show. Gemma Houghton's there. Ash Woodland, I think, has moved into the midfield and done incredible. Indy Tahu has went forward. I just think the dangerous weapons that Port Adelaide has is going to give Serene Watson in that defense headaches, especially with Matilda Schultz dominance through the ruck. I like Port in this one as well. So that'll be a fascinating one. One I'm not looking forward to, but I am looking forward to. It's a really weird dichotomy for the old ball coach here. Is Thomas Farms Oval over in Adelaide as the Crows take on the Swans, 4 versus 5 on the ladder. A fun one here. I'm gonna tip the Crows in this one, but I'm gonna say this. Scotty Gowans is literally going to whiplash this group because this is 2 consecutive weeks that they're coming off of where they have underperformed. There's no doubt about it. You cannot argue with me. Sydney has underperformed. Do we see go on the road, group tightens up, group really picks it up, and we see the best of Sydney against a good Adelaide side? I hope so. I really do. Because if we get the Sydney that played GWS and Collingwood, it's going to be a long day for Brianna Tarrant, Ash Van Loon, and Jazz Grierson down back because the Crows, with incredible amount of talent, and Hatchard can go forward. Eloise Jones is starting to find her form. It could be a long day for the Swans. The Swans need their best possible performance in this one if they want to have a chance to take 4 points out of South Australia.
I agree on that one, Johnny. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Crows on it based on form at the minute, but I do think there's going to be a bit of a bounce back from the Swans as well. But, we just mentioned earlier how good Adelaide have been in that fourth quarter across the last few rounds. They're going to be at home. I think they're solidifying their season a bit, but there is the potential for a Swans win here for sure, but I think Adelaide might just be too good at home, especially if the game is tight going into the final quarter.
Yep. Nope, I'm 100% with you. Like I said, I'm tipping the Crows, but like I said, if the Swans have a bounce back game, then I think I was hoping that we would get a GWS that we didn't. It's gonna be a fun one. Like I think it's gonna be a super competitive game, especially on the vastness that is on the oval. It's a big oval, so it's gonna be fun to watch that one. Let's head up to Queensland, Brisbane Lions v the Richmond Tigers. It's a lot like the game between Essendon and the Kangaroos. I have so much trouble trying to find a way for Richmond to have some success in this, especially with a Lions team. They are Energizer bunnies. They run and they run and they run, and it just doesn't stop. Lions and Lions big with this one. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, but I think the Lions big in this one.
Yeah, I think we're tipping the Lions here for sure at home on Brighton Homes Arena. The only thing, the Lions are having their most inconsistent start to the season
Agree.
yet. They've win loss, win loss, win loss. They haven't won two games in a row. If there was ever a time that Richmond were going to pull off a shock, it might be up in Brighton Homes Arena. But if that wasn't to happen, it would be competitive as opposed to a blowout because that's the last thing that Richmond need at the minute. But yeah, you got to tip the Lions for that one.
Yeah, on that one. And then I think a sneaky game of the round for me. West Coast Eagles at home in Perth versus a 2-0 in their last two games, GWS Giants. A fascinating one in this one. Who do you like in this one?
Oh, I think you're right. This could be up there with one of the top two or three fixtures of the round. It's a tricky one to call. I think this can go anyway because if ever Giants wanted to build on momentum of those two wins, this is a game that they might fancy themselves to do that in. You got 15th versus 9th, but there's that much difference between the teams. But on the flip side, you've got Daisy Pearce at home with the Eagles, and they're going to want to bounce back from that big loss, the Melbourne Demons. So they might just have too much in the end for the Giants. So I'd like to see a Giants win here, but I think Eagles are going to get the win at home.
Yep, nope, I am with you. I'm with you on this. I have the Eagles winning this because I think the long travel from Sydney will dampen them a little bit. Again, Caitlin Surhoy coming back home to WA. It'll be fun to see if she can get some family and friends out to this one. GWS competitive. Daisy Pierce, I think, will round her troops up. The interesting thing will be is will the Eagles have tired legs come the fourth quarter with their travel after the game in Victoria? It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think a ripping game of football, Daisy Pierce versus Cam Benisconi, I think will be an incredibly fun coaches matchups to see how they dissuade the other in their tactics. It'll be so much fun to watch. Well, Mike, that is it. That is all 9 games tipped. We've went through. Again, I love chatting with you. It's so much fun. Like I said, the one of the architects of why the AFLW's Irish contingent has been so fantastic. So it's one of the questions I ask in the outro every week. Are there some Gaelic players that you're looking at right now that you think could make an impact on AFLW next year that we need to keep an eye on?
Oh, I think there is, Danny, and I think excitingly for me and for the Irish players and for everyone in AFLW, the number of Irish AFLW players next year will go over 40 for the first time ever, which is incredible. There'll definitely be some new Irish signings. There's some new Irish players, or there's some Irish players that are currently inactive that may or may not come back next season as well. So either way, I think we're going to go past 40, which is an incredible achievement, I suppose, heading into the season 11. At I'm not going to incriminate myself by dropping any names, I think, at this stage, but there's certainly a lot of Irish Gaelic football players who are excited to look at AFLW and who have the potential to make a big impact over there. It would be more of the same. There's numerous Irish players here that have the potential to impact the game, as have the players that have gone over. This season, we had 9 new Irish players for season 2025, which is a record number of new players for a season. It won't be anywhere near that next year, but there'll certainly be in the region of 4 or 5, I would imagine, to take us over that 40. So I suppose stay tuned and watch this space for some more Irish incoming players.
Cannot wait. As per usual, always fun, sir. You always bring the respect to it. Like I said, what you do, the yeoman's work that you do over in Ireland is incredible. Like I said, we've seen the fruits of your labor with so many of the Irish superstars that have come over. And I know, like I said, you haven't had direct fingers with all of them, but the fact that a majority of them are because of your impact on it is absolutely incredible. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, if you like what you're listening to when it comes to this old American talking Australian rules football, men's, women's, please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.